G'day and welcome to MPS 101, Basic Setup for the Multi-Sit Pose System, brought to you by ge-NeticS. What we'll be going through in this tutorial is just the basic setup of a few poses, how the setup menu works to get your furniture ready. Alright, so I'm going to go into my inventory and I've got my multi-sit pose system folder here and my tutorial materials already unpacked. It's a good idea to get all your items, sounds and props, animations, etc. into a folder so it smooths the process over and helps you keep organized while setting up. First thing you want to do is res any props you're going to be using. So I'm going to be using the desk in this tutorial. And we want to edit them, and we want to place a copy of the MPS prop script from our MPS folder into its content, like so. Once you've done that, you can then delete your prop from the folder. So I'm going to delete my desk there and take the new one. You can then go into the chair that I have resed here. Now you can set your poses to either root prim or a child prim. It doesn't matter where you do it. But I'm going to use a child prim in the main part of the chair. So I'm going to hit Edit Link Parts, go into my chair here. And I'm going to drag a copy of the book, the desk, snoring sound, and I'm just going to be setting up some single poses for this one. So I'm going to use single 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to drag them to the contents. Once they've been dragged, I can go into my MPS folder, excuse me, and I can take a copy of the helper, the settings note card, and the setup script, and I can drag them in there as well. Once you put them in there, you'll see that the helper gets resed and it'll ask you to track your camera. So click yes. Then you'll be asked to set a color name for the helper's pose ball color. This has nothing to do with the system. The system does not use pose balls. This just helps you identify the menu, and when you're setting up more than one at a time, like couples and such, this can help to identify what helper goes with what menu. So I'm just going to choose light blue. And you'll see the helper gets changed color there. So now I can continue and I can sit on my helper here. It'll ask to animate your avatar, so click yes. And then you can touch the helper to get your menu. Now the dialog has many options, and we're going to be going through most of these. Now the first button you'll see is set menu. Now this allows you to put poses into a menu. So you would use this button. Or if you want a menu in a menu, so say you had singles and then you had like laying and sitting, etc., you could then go set sub as well. But I'm just going to be setting one menu for this tutorial as an example. So we can go set menu. You'll see you get a little dialog here with a text box. You can just click in here to put in your name. So I'm just going to be calling my menu single sits, and then you just click submit to confirm it. You'll see here that next to the description of the button, you'll see that it's now changed from none to single sits. All our data is shown here so we can know what we're working with at the time. Alright, so by default the button name is our animation name. Now I don't want that. So we can go into set button. Just like when we set our menu, we can set the button name by a text box. So I'm just going to call this one relax, and hit submit. You'll see now that that has changed. I don't want any items, sounds or props for this particular pose, so I can continue by editing the helper, and I can rotate and position that to move the avatar as I please. Now an avatar can be placed up to 54 meters away from the prim in which you're setting up. So that can come in handy for some very creative products, as I'm sure you'll be able to think of. Alright, now once you've got that position and you're happy, you want to get your camera position into a position that you're happy with for a sit camera. Because at the time of clicking save data, the data where your camera is where the camera will be when you sit. The good thing about camera positions is that the end user, customer, or what have you, they can get a menu just for them that where they can toggle camera positions on and off, so they don't have to use them if they don't want to. Alright, so now that I've got that placed, I'm happy, and I'm going to hit Save Data. See that the data gets dumped to chat there, and we don't need to do anything with that for now. That just helps us to confirm that it has in fact been saved. Alright, so next I want to reset data. Now this resets data everything back to default, so you'll see that my button name is cleared. Now menu names will stay, because as you continue, each pose will get put into that menu that we last set. Alright, so I can set animation to change my animation. Now we just set up single one, so I can choose two, because you'll get a list of all the animations that are in the prim, and you can just choose them with their identification number here. So 2 for singles, 2, and you'll be animated straight away. Alright, so it's always a good idea to set your button right after setting your animation. So I'm going to go into set button, and this one I'm going to be using as sleep. So I'm going to call this one sleep. Hit submit. Now because I'll be sleeping, I can set a sound. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit set sound. Just like with the animations, we get a list of all the sounds that are in the prim. So there's only one in there, so I'm going to choose one for snoring. You'll then get another menu asking you if you want to play it once or if you want to loop the sound. Now I'm going to want to loop this sound, so I'm going to hit loop. And then you'll have that set. Also for this particular pose, I'm going to want my eyes closed because I'm going to be asleep. Having them open isn't going to be any good. So I can go into set face. Now there are 21 facial expressions to choose from. Now sleeping isn't on this page, so I can just go across the pages until I find it. And here we go, number 20, sleeping. So I can hit 20, and that hits our facial expressions. Now facial expressions can also be turned on and off by the owner's menu after setup. So your customers don't have to play them if they don't want to. Now I also need a desk here to sleep on, so I'm going to set prop. You get a list of all the objects in the prim and choose 2 for desk. When you've set a prop, you'll see that it gets rezzed out into world. You can just edit the prop like any other prim, like we have with the helper, and place it into position. So this is just going to go by the chair here. Until you're happy with the position. And while I'm here, I'm actually going to move my avatar a bit as well. Now again, I'm going to get my camera into position that I feel I want it for this pose. I think something like that will be fine. And I can hit save data. All the data then dumped out. We can continue to our next pose. So I'm going to go set anim, and I'm going to choose our last one in the list there, number 3. Now this one is going to be reading a book. So I'm going to set button, and I'm going to set this one as read. So submit. Now the desk is in the way there, and I need to get rid of it. So instead of hitting reset data, because that'll reset our button name that we just set, we can go into set prop, and you'll see you got a reset button. So I'm going to hit that to reset, and that will remove the prop. Just that one. Same with items and sounds, you can do this as well. So obviously I don't want my snoring sound, because I'm not going to be sleeping anymore. So I can go into set sound and hit reset. Same with our facial expression. And go into set face and reset. Alright, but I am going to need a book here, so let's go into set item. When we get our list of objects again, I can hit choose one for book. Alright, now once I've got that set up, I can just place my avatar into position. Until I'm happy. get my camera to a spot that I'm going to like. I think right there will work just fine. So I can now hit save data. Our last bit of data is pumped. Now that we've finished with all that, we can continue to get our data ready for use. So we can go into our dump data menu. You'll get another menu, and it gives you an option to turn on and off certain parts of the data. So if you're not using items, sounds, or props, you don't need to pump that data out. You can click that to turn it off. Click. But we're going to want all our data. Same with camera data, but we want it all for this particular tutorial. So we can hit dump data. Now all the data will get dumped to local chat here in the order in which we recorded it. Before I use that, I'm going to remove the scripts in the helper. So I'm going to hit remove, and it will ask you if you're sure you want to remove them, if you finish setting up your poses, etc. I'm going to hit yes. See that the helper gets removed and the scripts will automatically be deleted from the prim. So now I'm going to use this data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into local chat here. I'm going to go up under this line and I'm going to highlight all the data between those two lines. I'm going to right click and copy. I can close that down. And I am going to go into my chair here, the link parts, and I can open up the settings note card. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and paste that data. You don't need to remove any timestamps or anything, those are automatically ignored, but of course you can remove them if you wanted to make it look cleaner. I'm just going to leave them for now. Now all these settings up here have their uses, and we'll go through these a bit later, and you can read what they are in the instructions note card with the MPS. So I can now save that note card and close that down. While I'm in this prim, I'm going to go into our inventories here. Now to finish up, we need to take a copy of the CPU script, the HD script, and the ISP script. Now if you didn't use any items, sounds, or props, you won't need the ISP script, but we obviously did here in this tutorial, so I'm going to need it. And we just drag and drop that to the prim. It'll load data, tell you the percentage of it's loading there. And once it's finished loading, tells you there it's got one menu and 3 poses loaded. If you didn't have any menus set up, it would just say that it had 3 poses. But before we can sit down, I'm going to take off edit link parts to go back to the root prim here. And we need to take a copy of the MPS RAM script, and we need to place that in the content. This allows the owner to get their menu that they can turn camera position, etc. off. Now that that's all set up, I can take a seat. I'm going to sit here, and you'll see that our camera position changes to where we recorded it. We've got our menu here, and we've got our submenu. Then we can go into single sits, and we've got our poses. So I can change into sleep from relax. There I am, camera position changes, there's my facial expression and my prop. And there's the sound playing, snoring away there asleep. And I can then go into read, and you'll see that a camera position changes again, and it has offered to give me a book. So I can keep that, and I can go back and close this menu down, and I can go into my inventory here and wear that book, and there we are, reading away. Well, thank you for watching the first tutorial basic setup. Hope you enjoy the MPS and continue watching more tutorials to learn how to do couples poses and advanced props, etc.